Bully attacks new girl for breaking his rules. 5 seconds later, her German shepherd appears. The mountains were already holding their breath when Lily Hart realized she shouldn't have taken the shortcut behind Bear Creek Community Church. Evening in Colorado fell fast, the kind of fast that made the world feel smaller, quieter, easier to get cornered in. And Lily, new to town by barely a week, didn't know yet that shortcuts in Bear Creek came with a price. The first sound was a boot scuff on pavement. Sharp, close, intentional. She stopped walking. 3 figures stepped out from behind the church's brick wall, silhouettes framed by the dying glow of a parking lot light. The one in the center walked like he owned the ground beneath his feet. Trent Holloway, 24. Son of council chairman Marcus Holloway. Half the town treated him like a prince. The other half knew better and kept their heads down. He smiled like someone testing the edge of a knife. "You parked in my spot." Lily blinked. She'd barely spoken to anyone since arriving in Bear Creek. She'd worked her first shift at the diner, gone home, and collapsed on the old mattress in her tiny, rented cabin. Now she stood frozen beside her grocery bag, unsure what rule she'd broken this time. "I didn't see a sign," she said quietly. It was just an open space. Trent stepped closer. His friends fanned out behind him, a practiced formation, like they'd done this before. Maybe they had. His truck was still idling behind her beat-up Subaru, headlights burning through the dusk like interrogation lamps. "There don't need to be signs," Trent said. "People here just know." Lily had lived through worse than parking spaces, worse than men with loud voices and cheap power. But something in Trent's eyes made her chest tighten. Not anger, not even arrogance. Something colder, something that said he liked moments like this, the quiet corners where no one else was watching. She stepped back. He matched the step. "I'm new," Lily said, lifting her chin. "I didn't know the rule. I'll move my car. Too late." Trent's voice dropped to a low, mocking whisper. "You break it, you pay it." His friend Cole snatched her grocery bag and dumped it across the pavement. Oranges rolled. A carton of eggs burst open. Milk spread like pale water across the asphalt. "Stop." Lily tried to grab the bag, but Jake caught her wrist and twisted sharply. Pain shot up her arm. She gasped but didn't scream. She refused to give him that. "You moved here without asking who runs this place," Trent said. "Now you're learning." Lily swallowed hard. Her father used to say there were people born to create storms and people born to survive them. She'd spent the last 3 years proving she belonged to the second kind. And she had promised herself Bear Creek would be a new start, a place where she could simply breathe. Jake shoved her against Trent's truck. Metal slammed her spine. Stars burst behind her eyes. "Hey," Trent's voice changed, rougher now. "We're talking. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I'm not making anything." Lily's voice broke anyway. "I just want to go home." Trent grabbed her collar, pulling her close enough to smell the sweet burn of whiskey on his breath. "You don't get it. This is my town, my rules. You don't walk in here and ignore that." Lily pushed back, but he was taller, heavier, certain she wouldn't fight. His fingers dug into her shoulder hard enough to bruise. Jake and Cole blocked the only path out of the lot. Then something changed. 5 seconds. That was all. First second, the wind stopped. The pines at the edge of the parking lot froze mid-sway, as though an unseen hand had pressed pause on the world. Second, Lily felt a tremor under her boots. Soft, rhythmic, like something heavy moving through the undergrowth. Third second, Trent's friends stopped grinning. Jake's eyes jerked toward the tree line. Fourth second, a low growl rolled across the pavement. Deep, primeval, the kind of sound that reaches nerves the brain hasn't learned how to name. Fifth second, A shape stepped out of the shadows. Not a shape. A German shepherd. Male. Big. Broad-shouldered despite a slight scar across his right hind leg. His coat was a storm of black and tan, thick enough to look like armor. His ears were up. His eyes were fixed on Trent like twin shards of amber glass. And when he growled again, the air seemed to vibrate. Titan. Lily's breath caught. She hadn't seen him in 3 years. Not since the night she'd found him bleeding on the side of a Pennsylvania back road. Not since she'd paid everything she had to save him. Not since she'd released him into the wild, thinking she'd never see him again. But there he stood, solid and steady, as if he had never left her at all. Trent loosened his grip. "What the hell is that?" Titan stepped forward. Not charging, calculated, controlled, a soldier taking position. Jake stumbled back. That's a shepherd, a big one. Titan bared his teeth. Jake ran first, Cole followed, nearly tripping over his own feet. The sound of their boots faded fast into the night. Trent held his ground 3 seconds longer. Then Titan lunged, not to bite, but to warn. The massive dog stopped inches from Trent's leg, teeth snapping shut with a crack that echoed off the church walls. Trent bolted, his truck fishtailed out of the lot, gravel spraying into the dark. Silence settled again, but not the fearful kind, a steadier kind, the kind that let Lily breathe for the first time all night. Titan stayed exactly where he'd braced, between her and the danger, until the last engine growl disappeared into the mountains. Only then did he turn his head toward her. His chest rose and fell, not from fear, but from the effort of holding himself back, waiting for her cue. Lily sank to her knees, reaching a shaking hand toward him. Titan closed the distance first, pressing his forehead to her shoulder. A sound left her throat she didn't recognize. Relief, grief, memory. "How did you find me?" she whispered. Titan didn't answer, but he didn't have to. His body was trembling, not from fear, but from instinct, from warning, because he hadn't come only to save her. He came because something else was out there. He came because the storm hadn't even begun yet. Morning in Bear Creek came with the smell of pine sap and burnt coffee. Lily Hart stepped into Bear Creek Diner at 6 on the dot, apron already tied, hair pulled back, shoes still wet from the frost that clung to the grass outside her cabin. The bell over the door chimed weakly, like even it wasn't fully awake. She needed the job, needed the hours, needed anything that kept her from thinking about last night and the way Titan had stood between her and 3 grown men as if he had always belonged at her side. Maddie Lane, the diner owner, looked up from the register. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, and carried herself like someone who had survived more winters than she cared to count. "Morning, kid. You look like you didn't sleep." Lily forced a small smile. "Long night. But I'm good." Maddie studied her face longer than necessary, then nodded toward the coffee pots. "Start there." The truckers hit early. The shift moved fast. Coffee poured, orders shouted, plates clattered. Lily's hands worked on instinct, but her mind kept drifting back to the cabin, to the tree line, to Titan's amber stare in the dark. She hadn't seen him this morning. She didn't expect to. He'd always been a creature of the night, moving like a shadow on 4 legs. By 9, her feet hurt, and her tips were barely enough to buy gas. By 11, she'd already calculated how long she had before the overdue credit card bill caught up with her. The number was not comforting. During a rare lull, Maddie leaned near the counter and lowered her voice. "You renting that old cabin off Timber Trail, right?" Lily nodded. "Keep your curtains closed at night." Maddie said, "Folks think this town is all postcard views and friendly neighbors, but you don't turn your back on the woods here." Lily tried to laugh it off. "I grew up near forests. They're just trees. Not these." Maddie's voice thinned. "Sometimes they hold on to things." Before Lily could ask, the diner door slammed open. Trent Holloway stood there like a bruise spreading across the morning light. He didn't look at the tables, didn't look at the menu, didn't look at Maddie. His eyes went straight to Lily. A slow smile crawled across his mouth, the kind that made her stomach tighten. "Fancy seeing you again," he said. The last person she wanted to see. The last person Titan would have tolerated near her. Lily kept her tone steady. "Can I help you?" "You already did," he said. "You made last night interesting." Customers glanced up. Maddie stiffened behind the counter. Lily swallowed. "I'm working." Trent stepped closer, invading her space just enough to make the air around them shift. "I heard you live alone out by the ridge. Brave spot for someone new in town. You sure you feel safe out there?" The question didn't sound like concern. It sounded like a warning wrapped in pretend curiosity. Before Lily could respond, something outside caught her eye through the diner window. A shadow between the pines. Large, still, watching. Titan. He stood at the tree line across the road, half hidden behind the trunk of a Douglas fir. His posture was rigid, ears pricked, body angled toward the diner entrance. He wasn't relaxed, he wasn't wandering. He was here for one reason. He sensed Trent. Lily's breath hitched. Trent followed her gaze and huffed. "Is that mutt yours?" "No," but the word came out too fast. Trent smirked. "Thought so. Looks like the kind of dog that chews through fences and trouble." Titan didn't move, but his stare sharpened. His tail was still, but not in fear. In calculation. As if he were measuring Trent's footsteps through the glass. As if he already knew this man. Or knew men like him. Trent leaned in again. "The sheriff says animals that size shouldn't be running loose. I could make a call for you. Get rid of the problem before it hurts someone." The twist came fast. The bell above the diner door jingled as a customer walked out. For a split second, Trent glanced away. Titan moved. Not a run. Not a charge. A single step, silent but deliberate. Enough to make Trent tense even from across the road. Enough that every hair on Lily's arms rose. Titan's eyes were locked on Trent with a sharpness Lily had never seen in him. Not even the night she'd rescued him bleeding from the roadside. This was something older, deeper, instinct catching a scent it remembered. Trent took a half step back without meaning to. His bravado flickered. Maddie spoke from behind the counter, voice steady but cold. "Trent Holloway, if you're not ordering breakfast, take your mouth and your attitude outside. This is my diner, not your playground." People turned to look. Trent straightened, embarrassed. His jaw tightened. "This isn't over." He left. Not storming out, not sauntering, something in between, something almost uncertain. The bell fell silent behind him. Lily stepped outside minutes later during her break, heart still unsteady. Titan had crossed the road, waiting near the dumpster where no one else could see him easily. He approached her slowly, touching his nose to the back of her hand. A gesture of reassurance. A question. A soft sound escaped him, low in his throat. Not a growl, something closer to a warning. "You showed up again," she whispered. "Are you following me?" Titan lifted his head toward the woods, then back to the diner door where Trent had stood. His body stiffened. His breath shortened. Muscles under his coat tightened like ropes. He remembered something. Something about Trent. Something from a past Lily still didn't know. When she placed her hand gently on his shoulder, Titan didn't. "Relax." He only stepped closer, angling his body to shield her from the street, from the windows, from anything he couldn't see yet. The instinct wasn't random. Titan wasn't just watching her, he was guarding her. And Bear Creek, for all its postcard charm, was beginning to show its cracks. The morning after Trent's visit to the diner felt heavier than the grey sky hanging over Bear Creek. Lily sensed it before she stepped inside. Conversations hushed. Eyes cut in her direction, Maddie Lane stood behind the counter with attention she wasn't trying to hide. Lily tied her apron anyway. "I'm here on time." Maddie didn't answer right away. She set down the stack of menus she'd been holding and nodded toward Lily's section. "Work the corner tables today?" Lily followed the shift in tone. Something was off. It wasn't until mid-morning, when the breakfast rush eased, that Maddie finally spoke. She leaned close, voice low enough that only Lily could hear. "Trent's father called last night." Lily stopped wiping the counter. "Why would he call you?" Maddie looked at her with an expression halfway between pity and anger. "Marcus Holloway doesn't call me unless he wants something. He said you made a scene with his son in the parking lot. Said the sheriff might want to talk to you." Lily felt the air leave her lungs. "That's not what happened." "I know it's not," Maddie said. "But around here the Holloways don't need the truth. They only need a reason." Before Lily could reply, Maddie took a slow breath, bracing herself. "I'm cutting 2 of your evening shifts, just for now, until this cools down." It hit harder than Lily expected. The loss of hours meant losing groceries, losing gas money, losing any margin she had left. But the look on Maddie's face told her arguing wouldn't fix anything. Not in a town where the Holloways had their hands in everything. She nodded, pretending she wasn't breaking a little inside. By the time she left the diner after her reduced shift, a thin rain had settled over Bear Creek. Her old Subaru coughed twice before starting, rattling as she drove the winding dirt road to her cabin. Weeds brushed against the doors. The woods pressed close, breathing that cold mountain mist that always felt like a warning. She saw Titan before she even parked. He stood near the tree line, tail still, ears forward, watching the road as if he expected trouble to arrive behind her. When Lily got out, he trotted up with a strange urgency, pushing his head against her stomach, huffing out a sound that wasn't relief and wasn't fear. Something in between. "Hey." Lily knelt to run her fingers through his thick coat. "You've been here all day?" Titan didn't answer. Instead, he turned sharply and tugged at the hem of her jacket, pulling her towards the woods. "What is it?" Lily followed, letting him lead her down a narrow path between the pines. He stopped suddenly, nose buried in a patch of wet leaves. A low rumble vibrated from his chest. When he backed away, Lily saw what he uncovered. A torn strip of fabric. Dark green, heavy, like denim or canvas. Edges frayed from being ripped off something. But the strangest part was the smell. Faint yet unmistakable. The metallic bite of gunpowder. Lily's fingers tightened around the fabric. She looked at Titan. He had gone completely still, muscles rigid, eyes sharp. His chest rose in short breaths. This wasn't curiosity. This was memory. Recognition. Fear. Titan had once been terrified of the smell of gunpowder. And Lily knew exactly why. Her mind pulled her backward, without permission. 3 years earlier, a rain-soaked Pennsylvania highway. She'd been driving home from a part-time class when she spotted the lump on the shoulder. She almost didn't stop. She'd been exhausted, broke, and late for work. But something made her pull over. She remembered the sound first. A faint whine under the crash of the storm. A dog, young, frightened, lying on his side with his back leg twisted unnaturally. His coat splattered with mud and blood. The smell of gunpowder so strong it forced her to step back. Someone hadn't just hit him. Someone had shot him. Titan had struggled to lift his head, eyes wide with confusion and pain, and she had knelt there in the rain, hands trembling, whispering words she didn't remember. She had carried him to her car, sat with him through surgery she couldn't afford, slept on the floor beside his crate while he recovered. He had limped for weeks, flinched at every loud noise, and the smell of gunpowder made him freeze like stone. Now, in the middle of the Bear Creek woods, Titan was frozen again. Lily crouched beside him. The fabric piece was damp from the rain, but the scent was fresh enough to raise the hairs on her arms. "Titan, what is this?" He didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on the trees, scanning the shadows, muscles coiled tight. Then he nudged the fabric again and tugged Lily toward a deeper part of the woods. Lily hesitated. She wasn't armed, she wasn't prepared. The woods felt wrong, too quiet, too expectant. But Titan kept looking back at her, urging her forward. They only walked 50 yards before Titan stopped again. His body lowered, front legs bent, posture shifting into something primal. Protective. He wasn't just searching anymore, he was guarding. Lily kneeled beside him. The ground was disturbed here. Pine needles scraped aside. The dirt churned as if someone had stood in this exact spot recently, watching the trail, waiting. And beside one footprint, half buried in mud, she saw the faint shine of brass. A spent casing. Her stomach dropped. This wasn't random. Someone with a gun had been near her cabin. Recently. Close enough for Titan to pick up the scent. She closed her fingers around the casing, feeling the cold metal press into her palm. Titan growled, a deep warning that echoed through the trees. Lily looked at him and had understood. This wasn't about parking spaces. This wasn't about teenage arrogance or small-town attitudes. Someone in Bear Creek had fired a weapon in these woods. Someone connected to the same darkness that once broke Titan's leg and left him bleeding on a highway miles from here. And now they were close. Titan nudged her hand, eyes burning with the memory she wished he didn't have. His stance was rigid, his breath sharp. He wasn't afraid. He was remembering. And Lily realized something else. Titan hadn't come back into her life by accident. He had come because danger had found her first. The first night Trent Holloway followed Lily wasn't the worst. It was the second. The first she could almost blame on coincidence, on small-town roads and bad luck. But the second night stripped away every excuse. She noticed him in her rearview mirror while driving home from her shortened shift. His lifted truck stayed 3 cars behind on the narrow mountain road, far enough not to be obvious, close enough that she could feel the weight of his headlights pressing against the glass. Every time she turned, he turned. Every time she slowed, he matched the pace. The trees swallowed the road on both sides, giving her nowhere to pull over, nowhere to disappear. By the time she reached the dirt path leading to her cabin, her hands were shaking on the steering wheel. The truck idled at the fork in the road instead of passing. Just idled, watching, waiting. Titan was standing in the middle of her yard when she finally parked, posture rigid, ears up, chest puffed like a soldier assessing threat. When he saw the truck's lights, he didn't bark. He didn't need to. His entire body communicated one message. Stay back. Trent's truck eventually crawled away into the dark, but the silence he left behind was worse. Lily sat on the front step long after locking the door, arms around her knees. The woods felt too alive, the wind too quiet, the night too aware of her. Titan stayed pressed against her leg, warm and steady, grounding her in a way she didn't realize she needed. The next morning, the fear hadn't faded. It had sharpened. Titan refused to let her leave the cabin for work. He stood in the doorway, blocking her path with his entire body. When she tried stepping around him, he followed, nudging her back inside. She tried again. Titan pushed harder. "You're not the boss of me," she whispered, even though she knew a plea when she heard one. "I need this job." Titan only lowered his stance further, placing himself squarely between her and the outside world. His breathing was slow but tense, alert, focused on the tree line as if expecting something to emerge. Lily checked the woods. Nothing moved. Still, Titan's instincts were rarely wrong. She sighed. Fine. 1 more hour. Then I'll go. Titan allowed her 2 feet from the doorway, but no farther. By noon, the air shifted. The wind carried a faint metallic smell, familiar enough to raise goosebumps along Lily's arms. She followed Titan outside and saw him pacing near the pines, nose close to the ground, tail straight behind him. He barked once, low, a warning. What did you find? Titan dug at a patch of dirt beneath a large pine. Lily crouched beside him, brushing aside pine needles. Something caught the light. Small, brass. Worn from age but unmistakable. A bullet. Old but not ancient. Weathered but not harmless. Her stomach knotted. She lifted it into her palm. Titan froze the moment metal touched her skin. His eyes locked on the casing like it was a ghost from a nightmare. His breath hitched. He stepped back with a sound she hadn't heard from him since the night she found him bleeding on the roadside. A soft, broken whine. You know this smell, don't you? The words came out barely audible. Titan backed up until he was sitting, muscles shaking. This wasn't fear of the present. It was memory pulling him under. Lily turned the casing over. It looked almost identical to the one she'd found at the forest edge yesterday. Her heart tightened. 2 casings, 2 locations, both near her cabin. Someone had been firing a weapon here. Recently? Or years ago? She needed answers. And Bear Creek, for all its hush and charm, had more secrets than an abandoned highway at midnight. That afternoon she drove to the diner to speak with Maddie. She didn't bother hiding her shaken expression. Maddie noticed the moment she walked in. You look like you've seen something you wish you hadn't. Maddie said, Maybe I have. They sat in a corner booth away from customers. Lily placed the casing on the table. Maddie didn't touch it. That looks like the caliber Vern Holloway used. Maddie murmured. Trent's grandfather. Lily looked up sharply. Used for what? Maddie hesitated. The kind of hesitation that means the truth is darker than the question. There was talk, years back. Before you got here. Vern had a reputation. He liked to hunt in the restricted parts of Bear Creek, places where the elk don't stand a chance and the laws get quiet. He was investigated for poaching, shooting what he shouldn't, but the case went nowhere. Because of the family name. Because of the sheriff. Maddie said softly. Lily felt her pulse in her fingertips. Are you saying Vern Holloway might still be out there with a gun? Maddie's silence was an answer of its own. When Lily left the diner, the air felt colder. She drove home with every sense sharp. Titan met her at the door again, but this time he didn't try to block her. He nudged her hand, then walked straight back to the pine where he'd found the bullet. He pawed the ground once. Then he looked up at her. He wanted her to understand. Lily sat on the forest floor beside him, the bullet still in her pocket, the other evidence hidden under her bed. She could feel the weight of it all pressing down on them. Titan watched her with a gaze too human for comfort. His eyes carried a story she couldn't fully read, but she recognized the outline. 3 years ago, someone shot him. Someone who knew guns. Someone who knew how to hit muscle without killing instantly. Someone who'd done it before. What if that someone had followed him to Bear Creek? Or worse, what if Titan hadn't followed her to protect her? What if he had followed her because danger had recognized him first? Titan pressed his head into her shoulder, breath trembling against her ribs. Lily wrapped her arms around him as the truth settled like frost in her chest. Titan hadn't just been hurt in the past. He had been hunted. And hunters always returned to familiar ground. Dusk in Bear Creek always fell too fast, swallowing the sky before a person could decide whether to fear the dark or trust it. Lily Hart had no time for either. She had run into the grocery store for milk and bread, hoping to get home before the last light disappeared behind the ridge. But as she exited the parking lot, Grocery bag in hand, 3 silhouettes stepped out from behind the dumpster. Trent Holloway and his 2 friends. Her stomach tightened. The same formation as the church lot. The same smirks. The same slow, predatory energy. "Going somewhere, Lily?" Trent asked, blocking her path. "I don't want trouble." Lily tried to move left. Jake cut her off. She stepped right. Cole moved with her. "You made trouble," Trent said. "My dad says you've been asking around, digging where you shouldn't. I'm just trying to live my life." Trent leaned close enough that she smelled the alcohol on his breath. "Then stop looking into mine." Lily backed away until her spine hit a shopping cart. Her pulse hammered in her ears. She scanned the parking lot for help, but the last cars were already pulling onto the main road. The lights from the windows flickered out one by one. Nobody saw her. Nobody saw Trent take another step. But someone heard. From the shadows near the trees, a sudden roar split the air. Titan burst into the open like a force of nature. His paws hit the asphalt hard, his teeth bared in a flash of white. His growl vibrated the ground. Trent and his friends froze. Titan skidded between Lily and the bullies just as Trent raised an arm as if ready to shove her. Titan didn't touch anyone, but he didn't have to. His stance was enough, protective, unyielding, willing to break himself before letting harm near Lily. Jake cursed and stumbled backward. Cole lifted his hands as if surrendering to a SWAT team. Trent stayed still, jaw clenched. "Call your dog off," he hissed. "He's not the problem," Lily said. Titan snarled. The sound ricocheted through the fading light. Then everything shifted. A crack split the air. Lily didn't understand it at first. It sounded distant, like a branch snapping deep in the forest. Titan jerked. His body bucked sideways. Then he dropped to the pavement. Lily screamed. Trent and his friends bolted, sprinting toward their truck without looking back. Tires screeched. Tail lights vanished. The parking lot went dead silent. No. Lily dropped to her knees, beside Titan. His breathing was ragged, too fast. His right shoulder was wet with blood, the fur matted and dark. She pressed her hands against the wound, trembling. "Stay with me. Titan, stay with me." He watched her with eyes that refused to close. Determined, apologetic, afraid only for her. Another crack echoed from the woods. Not at a branch. A rifle. Lily's chest seized. Someone had shot Titan. Someone was still out there. She grabbed Titan's fur with both hands and hauled him up. He staggered, legs buckling. She got an arm under his chest, heaved, and pushed forward with every ounce of strength she had. They had one chance. Walt, her neighbor, the only person close enough to reach before Titan collapsed. Lily dragged Titan across the parking lot, breath ripping from her throat. A truck passed on the road but didn't stop. She screamed anyway, voice cracking into the cold air. "Help! Please! Help!" Titan tried to stand, but his legs slid beneath him. He let out a low sound, fighting to stay conscious. Lily refused to let him drop. She wrapped both arms around him, nearly falling as she dragged him towards the road. Headlights turned the corner. Lily spun, waving frantically. The truck slowed. Then she recognized the dented bumper and rusted fender. Walt Barrett. The 50-year-old rancher slammed the brakes. His door flew open. Lily. What in God's name? He saw the blood and didn't waste a second. "Get him in the truck, now!" Together they lifted Titan into the back seat. Titan whimpered, but didn't fight them. His fur was slick with blood, warm against Lily's shaking hands. Walt floored the gas. His truck fishtailed onto the road. "Who did this?" he demanded. "There was a shooter in the woods. I didn't see him." He aimed for Titan. Walt cursed under his breath. His jaw tightened. "We're going to Dr. Carter. Hold him steady." Titan's breathing hitched with every bump. Lily pressed her palms against the wound. Her tears hit his fur, disappearing instantly. "You saved me," she whispered. Stay. Please stay. Titan's eyelids drooped, but he nudged her wrist with his nose, refusing to slip away. The drive felt endless, though it lasted barely 10 minutes. Dr. Rosalind Carter's clinic glowed dimly at the edge of town. Walt didn't bother parking straight. He leapt out, shouting for help. The vet, a woman in her 40s with a steady voice and surgeon's hands, rushed outside. Inside. Now. They placed Titan on the operating table. Rosalind cut away the blood-soaked fur. Her eyes narrowed. Bullet wound. High entry angle. Large caliber. Not a handgun. Hunting rifle. Lily's stomach turned. Walt stepped closer. What type? Rosalind picked up the extracted bullet fragment with a pair of forceps. Her expression hardened. This is the same caliber the poachers use in Bear Creek. The same type the sheriff pretends doesn't exist. Lily froze. Poachers. Gunpowder. Spent casings. Vern Holloway's investigation. Titan's old injury. Everything clicked. In one violent, sickening moment. Someone who hunted illegally in these woods before was hunting again. And Titan wasn't a random target. He had been shot once in the past. Now someone had tried again. Rosalind looked up, voice steady but heavy. Lily, he took this bullet for you. If it had been you standing where he stood, you wouldn't be here. Lily gripped Titan's paw. He squeezed back weakly, his eyes glassy but still locked on her. Walt placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. We'll keep him alive. You hear me? This dog is a fighter, and whoever did this, they're not done yet. Lily didn't answer. She knew. Somewhere in the dark edges of Bear Creek, the person who shot Titan was watching, waiting, planning the next step. Titan had risked his life to stop it. Now Lily would have to decide how far she was willing to go to protect him in return. The small clinic smelled of antiseptic and pine soap, but beneath it was something heavier. Fear, the kind that clung to the air so thick Lily felt it on her skin. Titan lay sedated on the operating table, his chest rising in shallow, uneven breaths. Blood-stained gauze filled a bin nearby. Dr. Rosalind Carter worked under the bright surgical lamp, murmuring instructions to her assistant, while Walt Barrett paced like a restless bull, hands clasped behind his back. Lily stood beside Titan, one hand resting lightly on his paw. She felt the faint tremor in his muscles. She felt his fight. He had saved her twice now. She had no intention of letting this be the last time. Hang on, boy. Please hang on. Rosalind didn't look up. His vitals are holding, but the infection risk is high. This bullet wasn't clean. Whoever fired it knew he'd suffer. Lily swallowed hard. She already knew who that someone might be. She just didn't understand why the past was repeating itself. A loud bang rattled the clinic's front door. Walt spun around. Lily flinched. Rosalind's assistant peered down the hallway. Someone was outside. Walt moved first, grabbing a metal flashlight like a weapon. Stay behind me. But before he reached the door, it flew open. Trent Holloway stepped inside. Lily's breath caught. Walt raised the flashlight, but Trent lifted both hands in surrender. I'm not here to hurt anyone. His voice sounded wrong. Not the swaggering, smirking tone Lily had come to expect. Something raw had chewed through him. I need to talk to Lily, now! Walt barked. You're not taking one more step toward her. Lily placed a trembling hand on Walt's arm. It's okay. Let him speak. Trent hesitated at the threshold of the surgery room, staring at Titan. For the first time since she'd met him, the color drained from his face. Is he alive? For now, Rosalind said without looking up. Trent exhaled shakily and then stepped forward just 1 inch, as if afraid the floor might collapse under him. Lily could tell he wasn't looking for control. He looked like he was suffocating. I know who shot him. Silence crashed into the room. Walt's grip tightened on the flashlight. You better start talking real clear, boy. Trent swallowed. His voice trembled. It was my grandfather. Lily felt the floor tilt. Your grandfather? Your family? Again? Trent nodded slowly. Eyes hollow. It wasn't the first time. Lily's heartbeat thudded in her ears. She saw flashes of Titan's old limp, the fear he carried around gunpowder, the way he stiffened near Trent's family property. Something old and jagged inside her clicked into place. Walt stepped closer, face storm dark. You know what you're admitting? I know. Trent lifted a small black device from his jacket. A voice recorder, and I have proof. He pressed play. A grainy crackle filled the room. Then an old man's voice rasped through the speaker. Should have finished that mutt years ago. Same leg, same damn dog. Should have never let it limp off like that. Animal like that remembers. It comes back angry. Lily's stomach twisted. Rosalind paused mid-suture. Trent's voice on the recording whispered, You shot that German shepherd tonight. A pause. Then the older voice replied, Course I did. You think I'd let that wounded stray track me again? I saw the way it looked at me. Just like before. Should have ended it with one bullet the first time. The recording clicked off. For a long moment, no one breathed. Walt spoke first. You wore a wire. Trent nodded. I went to the sheriff before coming here. They're arresting him tonight. And the others. The whole poaching ring. They've been hunting illegally in these woods for years, covering their tracks, buying silence. My dad knew. My uncle knew. Everyone in my family did except me. And when I confronted him about the dog 3 years ago, he laughed like it was a joke. Lily stared at him. Why tell me this? Why now? Because... Trent's voice cracked. Because I didn't know until tonight it was the same dog. I saw Titan run at me in the parking lot, and I saw his limp, and I recognized it. The way he moved. The scar. Everything I ignored before hit me like a brick. I realized what he survived. What I let happen. He looked at Lily then, and for the first time, there was no arrogance in his eyes. I was wrong about everything, and my grandfather almost killed him again because of me. So I need to make it right while there's still time. Lily didn't know what to say. The anger she expected didn't rise. What came instead was something quieter, sadder. Trent wasn't a monster. He was a boy raised by monsters, trying to unlearn everything they taught him. Rosalind cleared her throat. She held a bloody pair of forceps in one hand. He'll live. Lily gasped. Walt sagged with relief. Titan remained unconscious, but his breathing had changed. Stronger. Steadier. Rosalind continued. The bullet didn't hit anything vital. I removed it. He'll need days of rest and antibiotics, but he's a fighter. He wants to stay. Lily pressed her forehead gently against Titan's. Thank you. Oh God, thank you. Trent swallowed, watching the scene with a broken expression, as if seeing something he didn't believe he deserved. Walt glared at him. You expect forgiveness? Trent shook his head. No, I expect consequences, but Lily. He looked at her, voice barely holding. I'm sorry. For everything. For the way I treated you. For not stopping what my family started. You didn't deserve any of it. Neither did he. Lily studied him. His trembling hands, his reddened eyes. The voice recorder he still held like an anchor. This was his turning point. And he knew it. Thank you for telling the truth, Lily said quietly. Trent nodded, eyes wet. Sheriff Alvarez will want to talk to you both. I'll wait outside if you need me to. He stepped back into the hallway but paused before leaving. Tell him I hope he pulls through. And then he walked away, shoulders bowed under the weight of the truth he'd carried too long. Rosalind returned to work, finishing stitches. Walt placed a steady hand on Lily's shoulder. You did good, kid. And so did he. Lily looked at Titan. He had fought death twice. He had crossed miles, years, and instinct to protect her. He wasn't just a dog. He was a promise, a survivor, a guardian. When his eyes fluttered open and found her again, Lily felt something settle deeply inside her. This wasn't the end. It was the moment the fight truly began. The arrest happened before dawn. Bear Creek rarely woke early, but that morning lights flickered on one house at a time as Sheriff Alvarez's cruisers rolled quietly through Main Street toward the Holloway family ranch. Snow still clung to the edges of the pasture. The sun hadn't risen, but everyone in town would remember the sight of Vernon Holloway, age 76, former county sheriff and self-proclaimed protector of the land, being escorted out of his home in handcuffs. Charges: illegal poaching, discharging a firearm inside protected forest land, attempted harm to a domestic animal, endangerment. The list kept growing. Some people watched through windows. A few stood on their porches in silence. For the first time, the Holloway name didn't shield anyone. Lily heard the news from Walt, who had stopped by the clinic with 2 coffees and a weary look. Titan lay asleep in the recovery room, fresh bandages covering his shoulder, his chest rising steadily. "It's official," Walt said. "Alvarez has him. And not just him. That poaching crew your dog found the bullet from, whole network's coming down with him." Lily exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for days. Titan didn't just survive. He exposed something rotten hiding under Bear Creek's quiet surface. Walt leaned on the doorway. "Got to admit, never thought I'd see the day. That old man's been terrorizing wildlife around here for years. Folks whispered, but no one did a thing. You and that dog. Well, you broke the silence." Lily looked at Titan. Even unconscious, he carried a dignity that softened her. He wasn't just a protector. He was a compass, pulling truth to the surface. Later that afternoon, Sheriff Alvarez stopped by the clinic. She didn't wear her usual stern expression. Something gentler replaced it. "Wanted to update you." She glanced through the glass at Titan. "He's a hero around here now. If he hadn't led us to the bullet sites and old traps, we'd never have built a case this strong." Lily lowered her head. "It's all because he came back for me." Alvarez hesitated. "There's something else you should know." She pulled a small envelope from her coat. "Trent asked me to give this to you. He checked himself into a rehab facility in Denver this morning. Voluntarily. Said he wouldn't step foot in Bear Creek again until he earned the right to not be his grandfather's shadow." Lily didn't open the envelope in front of her. She wasn't ready for that yet. But she nodded. "Thank you, Sheriff." "He did wrong by you," Alvarez added. "But turning on his own family, that took guts. Don't see that often around here." When she left, Lily sat beside Titan and finally unfolded the letter. "Lily, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to ever want to see me again. But I need you to know that I'm trying to be someone different than the man who raised me and the kid I became. I'm sorry, truly. Tell Titan I'm grateful he didn't finish what he had every right to. Trent." Lily folded it back up slowly. Painful truth, reluctant courage, and the first step toward something new. It was a strange thing to receive from someone who had once made her flinch. But it mattered. The next week brought changes Lily didn't expect. On Monday morning, she walked into Bear Creek Diner with the faint hope that she might get her old hours back. Maddie Lane spotted her instantly. "There's my girl. Come here." Maddie wrapped her in a warm, flower-scented hug. "About scared the life out of me when Walt said Titan had been shot. You should have told me sooner." Lily shrugged, embarrassed. "I didn't want to bring trouble here." "Trouble walked through that door long before you arrived," Maddie said, And besides, I owe you an apology. Lily blinked. What? Why? Maddie waved toward the back bulletin board. Your schedule. Full hours again. And a raise. A raise. Lily nearly laughed. Why? Because you've been carrying half this place on your back since the day you got here. And because courage deserves to be recognized. God knows this town hasn't done enough of that lately. Lily hugged her tightly. For the first time in months, she felt a sliver of stability returning. Work improved. Customers she barely knew left bigger tips. People she'd only nodded to on the sidewalk started asking how Titan was doing. Walt came by every day with soup or sandwiches. Even Mrs. Bartlett, the town's grumpiest gossip, dropped off a blanket she insisted she didn't knit with Titan in mind, though it clearly was. Bear Creek hadn't just watched justice unfold. It was trying to grow from it. Back at the clinic, Titan began rehabilitation. Slow at first, painful to watch. He'd place weight on his injured leg, hesitate, then try again with a soft, determined rumble in his chest. Rosalind knelt beside him. His muscle tone is incredible. Whatever he went through before, he learned to adapt. He's built for survival. Lily smiled softly. He always has been. Titan nudged her wrist with his nose, eyes bright despite exhaustion. She stroked his head, feeling that familiar depth in his gaze. We're okay, she whispered. We're getting there. He shifted forward, testing his leg. Lily held her breath, 1 step, a second, a third. He stumbled on the 4th, and she caught him. His ears flicked back in frustration, but she pressed her forehead to his. It's enough, she whispered. You don't have to rush. You're safe now. Titan exhaled, leaning into her. A deep, grateful sound vibrated in his chest. That night, Walt drove her home while Titan remained for observation. Snow fell lightly, dusting the windshield. You know, Walt said, tapping the steering wheel, that dog of yours isn't just loyal. He's connected to this place. To you. Some animals choose their person once in a lifetime, and they never let go. Lily stared out the window, watching the white flakes whirl in the headlights. I think he found me long before I knew I needed him, she murmured. Walt nodded. That's usually how it works. When Lily stepped out onto her cabin porch, she felt a rare peace settle in her chest. The forest was quiet, the air cold but steady. She wrapped her coat tighter and looked toward the tree line. Titan had survived. The truth was exposed, and for the first time since moving to Bear Creek, she felt like the ground beneath her feet wasn't going to collapse. Justice was only the beginning. Healing would take longer, but it had already started. The first anniversary of the night Titan was shot arrived quietly, carried on a crisp wind that swept across the pines of Bear Creek. A year had a strange way of stretching and shrinking at the same time. Lily often felt as if she'd lived 2 separate lives, the terrified newcomer who stumbled into a nightmare, and the woman she had slowly become. By early spring, she was juggling more than she ever imagined she could. 3 days a week, she finished her shift at the Bear Creek Diner, changed into a clean sweater in the restroom, and drove 30 minutes to Colorado Mountain College for her evening classes. Psychology, trauma support, counseling principles. The first time she sat in a classroom again, she felt like an imposter. Too old, too scarred, too behind. But Titan always waited outside in the passenger seat, watching for her through the window. When she climbed back in the truck, and he pressed his head gently against her shoulder, she felt grounded again. Like she was moving toward something instead of away from the past. Tonight was one of those late class nights. When Lily pulled into the cabin driveway, headlights sweeping across the yard, Titan lifted his head from the passenger seat and stretched, tail thumping against the seat. His gait had fully returned. Only the pale scar along his shoulder remained, a thin, proud mark that gleamed under the cabin porch light. She opened the truck door. "Ready for your walk?" Titan hopped down gracefully, nose already lifted to the wind as if reading a language she'd never fully understand. He trotted ahead, pausing every few steps to check that she was behind him. His confidence had returned, but his protectiveness never faded. As they walked along the tree line, Lily noticed how Bear Creek had changed. A new community center rose on the old Holloway property, funded partly by state grants and partly by local donations. Sheriff Alvarez led workshops there, wildlife safety, first aid basics, and a program for at-risk teens. The town was lighter, freer, as if a long shadow had finally lifted. No one used the phrase Holloway rules anymore. It had vanished like it had never belonged here in the first place. At the diner, Maddie Lane had hired 2 teenagers for summer work, and Lily found herself teaching them how to take orders without getting overwhelmed. People who used to whisper about the Holloways now talked about hiking trails, school events, and town cleanups. When Titan followed Lily in on slow mornings, regulars greeted him like an old friend. He'd become something of a symbol, resilience in fur and muscle. Kids reached out to pet him. Old men nodded respectfully. Even people who had never owned a dog felt something steady and familiar in him. Titan took it all in with quiet dignity. He wasn't a show dog or a trained canine, but he had a presence that filled a room. That presence was why Lily didn't see or hear what happened until Titan froze. They were halfway through their nightly walk when his ears lifted, body rigid. His nose tilted toward the ridge above the cabin. "What is it?" she whispered. Titan stepped in front of her, tail dropping low. His body language changed in a way she hadn't seen in months, not fear, but alertness. A memory surfaced in her mind of the first night he'd returned to her, the same instinctive stillness, the same quiet warning. Lily held her breath. "Is someone there?" The forest answered only with wind. Titan moved forward slowly, sniffing the air. Lily followed, heartbeat tight. When he reached the edge of the ridge trail, his nose bumped something on the ground. A small cardboard box. Lily knelt, hesitating before opening it. Inside lay a folded piece of paper and a silver coin. Her stomach tightened. Titan nudged the box again, urging her to read it. She unfolded the note under the moonlight. It was signed with a name she hadn't seen in a year. Trent. The handwriting was shaky, but the message was clear. "Lily, I'm doing better. 1 year sober. I'm rebuilding from nothing, which feels right. I heard Titan made a full recovery. I wanted to send something to remind you both that scars can mean survival, not failure. The coin was my grandfather's. I don't want it. I think giving it away is the first thing he ever inspired me to do. That feels decent. If you ever need help, or if Titan ever needs anything, leave a message with Sheriff Alvarez. I won't disturb your life. I just needed to return something to the place where everything changed for me. Thank you for not turning your back on me when you had every reason to. Trent." Lily exhaled, emotions tangling into something unexpected. Not fear, not anger. A quiet kind of closure. Titan nudged her hand, sensing the weight of the moment. She scratched behind his ears. "Looks like you helped save more than one life," she whispered. Titan huffed softly, as if acknowledging a truth he already knew. They walked back toward the cabin, the note tucked into Lily's pocket. The porch light glowed warmly in the dark. Snowmelt trickled quietly somewhere nearby. Nothing chased her anymore, not memories, not secrets, not danger. Inside, she poured a cup of tea and watched Titan curl onto the rug, head resting on his paws. His fur glowed in the firelight, his scar a pale reminder of a night he refused to surrender. She thought about her classes, the future she was building, the quiet healing that had seeped into Bear Creek, about kids who walked to school without fear, about neighbors who looked out for one another, about Titan, stronger than ever. A year ago, she thought she was running from life. Now she was building one. Titan shifted in his sleep, ears flicking. Lily smiled softly. "We made it," she whispered. He didn't stir, but his tail moved once, slow, certain, content. Outside, the wind carried the faint scent of pine and thawing earth. Inside, the peace she'd been searching for finally felt real. By late summer, Bear Creek Diner smelled not only of fresh pancakes and black coffee, but of something new, something alive, something hopeful. It started with a single plastic bin near the entrance, labeled with a hand-painted sign, "Dog Rescue Corner." Maddie Lane gave Lily the space without hesitation, and Walt built the wooden frame from scraps left in his shed. Lily expected the corner to hold a few blankets, maybe some kibble, maybe an occasional donation. But Bear Creek had a way of surprising you. Within a month, the corner grew into 3 shelves, then 5. Blankets stacked neatly beside bags of food, leashes and collars, homemade toys crocheted by local grandmothers, a jar filled with crumpled bills and coins, a bulletin board covered with photos of dogs who had already been helped. A few had been starving. One had been chained in an abandoned barn. Others were simply lost. Every picture had one thing in common. Titan sitting beside the rescued dog, as if confirming to the whole town that they were now part of his watch. Lily didn't set out to start a movement. She only wanted to pay forward the second chance Titan had given her. But people kept showing up, leaving supplies, asking how they could help. Kids stopped by after school to read Titan stories while their parents dropped donations on the counter. Titan took his role seriously, watching everything with calm authority. Whenever a new dog arrived, frightened, shaking, confused, he approached slowly, nose low, tail steady. The moment he earned their trust, you could feel the shift. The diner, noisy and bustling in the mornings, became the safest place a scared animal could land. One Saturday morning, the diner buzzed louder than usual. Lily was refilling coffee when she heard a sharp gasp near the door. A young boy, maybe 7, stood frozen in the entryway. His hands trembled. His mother knelt beside him, whispering reassurance he couldn't seem to absorb. Before Lily could reach them, Titan had already moved. He approached with slow, deliberate steps. The boy's eyes widened. Then his shoulders softened, as if he recognized something in Titan's steady gaze. Titan stopped right in front of him and gently lowered his head, leaving the choice entirely to the child. The boy reached out, hands still shaking. Titan stayed immobile, a warm pillar of patience. The moment the boy's fingers brushed his fur, the tension drained from him in a single breath. The whole diner went silent. Lily later learned the boy had witnessed a dog attack months before. He hadn't gone near one since. That morning, he refused to leave Titan's side. Word spread quickly after that. Parents brought children who were scared of dogs. Hikers brought strays they found near abandoned trails. Elderly residents who had recently lost their own pets visited to sit with Titan for a few minutes of quiet company. The dog rescue corner slowly evolved into something bigger, something the town hadn't known it needed. On a windy afternoon, Walt arrived at the diner carrying a wooden plaque carved from cedar. He set it on the counter with a grunt. "Thought he earned this," he said. Lily leaned in to read the engraving. Bear Creek Guardian in honor of Titan Protector, Survivor, Friend. Her throat tightened. Walt scratched his beard. Folks wanted something real to look at, a reminder of what standing up actually looks like. Titan, sitting nearby, tilted his head as if inspecting the craftsmanship. Then, to everyone's surprise, he lifted his paw and touched the plaque gently. The room erupted with laughter and applause. Kids wanted pictures with him after that. Families lined up outside the diner for meet and greets. Titan greeted each one with calm grace, never overwhelmed, never impatient. He seemed to understand that this was part of the healing Bear Creek needed. That evening, Lily locked the diner doors and stepped out into the warm twilight. Titan walked beside her, close enough that their shadows merged into one long shape across the pavement. "You know," she said softly, "I thought I came here to disappear." Titan lifted his face toward the wind, eyes half closed as if listening to something beyond the trees. "But instead, you helped me build something." They walked past the diner windows, where the plaque shone under the glow of the porch lights. For a moment, Lily saw the reflection of who she had been when she arrived. Tired, lost, unsure. Now that reflection stood taller, steadier, with a German shepherd at her side who carried his own scars with pride. As they approached the cabin, Titan suddenly halted. Lily followed his gaze. A small brown mutt was hiding near the woodpile, ribs visible beneath thin fur. Its eyes were wide with fear. Titan took one step forward, slow, controlled, the same way he always approached the broken ones. The mutt whimpered. Titan paused, waiting. Then the dog took a tiny step out of the shadows. Lily's heart warmed. Another one, another chance, another story waiting to be rewritten. Titan glanced back at her, as if asking for permission. "Of course," she whispered. "Bring him home." Titan approached the mutt and lowered his head gently. The small dog leaned into him, trembling, then followed him toward Lily's porch. Titan walked beside him the whole way, a silent pledge of protection. Lily watched them, the sunset painting the world in copper and gold. This, she realized, was the real legacy. Not the plaque, not the donations, not the rescue corner, not even the stories the town told. It was Titan's instinct to protect, to reach for the frightened, to stand between danger and the vulnerable. A legacy built one saved life at a time. Titan paused at the top of the steps and looked back at her, eyes steady and deep. A guardian doesn't choose the town, she thought. Sometimes the town chooses him. The ribbon fluttered in the wind like a small red flame against the backdrop of the diner's porch. The crowd gathered beneath the Bear Creek Canine Rescue Room sign, freshly painted and smelling faintly of cedar. Neighbors filled the steps, children held homemade banners, and Walt stood off to the side, wiping his eyes like sawdust had suddenly found its way into them. Titan sat beside Lily, tall and steady, his fur catching the morning sun. He wore no vest, no collar with medals, nothing but the quiet authority he had earned simply by surviving and protecting. His presence drew people in with the same soft pull of a tide. The mayor gave a short speech. Maddie added a longer one. Sheriff Alvarez kept his to 10 seconds, which everyone agreed was record-breaking. Then a reporter stepped forward, a young woman from the county's local station, her camera angled to catch both Lily and Titan in the same frame. Her first question came gently but without hesitation. "Why did you keep Titan with you through everything?" Lily felt the crowd lean in. Even the wind paused. She placed her hand on Titan's head. His ears twitched, and he lifted his gaze to her, offering the kind of grounding only he could give. "He didn't just save my life," she said, voice steady. "He saved the girl I was losing." For a moment the only sound was the whisper of the pines across the parking lot. The truth carried easily through the silence. It was a truth built across fear, blood, scars, and the long nights when she thought she wouldn't make it through. Titan nudged her hand as if confirming it. The reporter swallowed, taken off guard. And then Lily turned her attention straight into the camera lens. Her reflection stared back at her, no longer the frightened newcomer who stepped into Bear Creek with nothing but an old car and a German shepherd waiting in the shadows. "What's your story with a loyal pet?" The question echoed across the space. People shifted, some smiling, some lowering their heads, all remembering their own animals, past or present, who had pulled them through something hard. The wind swept in from the forest, colder now. A stray leaf skittered across the porch. Titan's ears flicked again as he shifted his weight, head turning towards the tree line. His body went still, not tense, just listening. Always listening. Lily followed his gaze. The forest stood quiet, dark green and deep, but not threatening anymore. It felt watched over, guarded. Titan took one small step forward, nose lifting to the air. For a fraction of a second, Lily felt the old fear prickle at the back of her neck. Then she realized what Titan was doing. Not sensing danger, sensing responsibility. He was still protecting her, still protecting the town. The instinct that once saved her life had never faded. Titan looked back at her, reassurance in his eyes, then returned to sit at her side. Not because the threat was gone, but because vigilance was simply who he was. A boy from the crowd approached timidly. "Can I pet him?" Titan lowered his head, granting permission. The boy grinned as his hand sank into Titan's fur. Cameras snapped. Someone cheered. Someone else cried quietly. The rescue room doors opened for the first time as Maddie cut the ribbon. Dogs barked inside. Rescued ones waiting for new homes, each one alive because of the corner Lily started with nothing but a cardboard box and a borrowed shelf. Lily exhaled. A long, full breath she didn't realize she'd been holding for years. Bear Creek was no longer the place she ran to. It was the place she shaped, day after day, wound after wound, healing after healing. She knelt and wrapped an arm around Titan. "We did it," she whispered. Titan touched his nose to her cheek, soft and warm. The camera caught the moment, a freeze frame of devotion, a girl who refused to stay broken and a dog who refused to let her fall. As the crowd poured into the rescue room, Lily stood, letting Titan step ahead of her like he always did. The last of the morning light slid across his scar, turning it silver. A reminder of what they survived, a reminder of what they built, and a reminder that courage, once awakened, never really sleeps. Titan turned once more, toward the forest, watching, guarding. His silhouette framed by the trees he once feared, his duty stretching far beyond the cabin, the diner, or the rescue room, a guardian of Bear Creek, a companion for life, a hero in the quiet ways that matter most. Lily faced the camera again, her voice soft but sure. If Titan's story touched you, if you believe in second chances, in brave hearts, in everyday heroes on four legs, then join us. Support this rescue. Share these stories. Help keep the spirit of loyalty alive. She smiled, hand resting gently on Titan's fur. And don't forget to follow and support our channel, German Shepherd. Every story you watch helps save another life. Beside her, Titan lifted his head proudly, eyes deep as the woods behind him. The wind answered with a low whisper through the pines. Bear Creek was safe, because Titan was still watching.